Hello, I just wanted to come on and check on you guys today. Hoping that my whole 30ers are doing awesome. This is day 12 for a lot of us. If you're following along with me, I started on the 7th. And I just wanted to come on and give you a couple helpful tips and tricks that have helped me along the way for the second half of the whole 30. So this is about the time that the newness of the program has worn off. So perhaps maybe you're getting a little frustrated or running out of ideas or, hey, Lindsay, or thinking that, there's just not much you can eat, or maybe your kids are giving you some pushback. So these are all things that I have ran into along the way in my journey that I thought might be helpful to address. So number one, the newness has worn off. So with that, you also should be feeling better. And I would hope that having the combination of feeling better and maybe starting to see some of those results that we had talked about in the beginning. I know not for all of us, weight loss is our number one, but perhaps maybe you're starting to see a little bit of inflammation reduce, and maybe your clothes are starting to fit better. So that should definitely give you some motivation. For me, personally, I've seen some interesting things this time around that I didn't notice my last few times. For instance, my skin has been clearing up quite a bit. I didn't realize that my skin was giving me such a trouble until I started looking in the mirror really closely and noticed that some white patches that I had on near my jawline were gone, and I had a couple of little bumps on my cheeks that I just thought was cells and pores that were just kind of changing over my life, and they have reduced and gone. Fine lines around under my eyes have reduced. So, all the positives, right? So, and then I'm starting to notice my clothes fitting a little bit better. And I'm also starting to notice my workouts going better. So maybe you're experiencing some things like that too. Maybe that brain fog has lifted, or maybe you didn't realize that brain fog was something you had. So just keep that in mind when you make your food choices, and hopefully that'll give you that motivation. And then kids. I know kids can be a little challenging, especially when you're trying something new. I have one child that loves change and one child that hates change. The child that hates change has really embraced it this year. We made it more of a fun game, and she's been on a couple of Facebook Lives with me, so that's kind of cool to get her involved in the kitchen, and she definitely likes being in the kitchen. My other one, she just kind of goes with the flow. She's like, well, whatever you make, I'll totally eat, and there have been a couple of nights where both kids have refused to eat what I made. Fine. They went into the kitchen and found something that they did want to eat. Maybe it's not a complete meal. I mean, it might have been a little bit of yogurt. Fine. It's something for them to put in their stomachs. And for them personally, they are not doing the whole 30 for the same reasons I am. They're literally just supporting their mom. So, make it fun for them. Try not to make it a chore. And then just introduce them to new foods, and don't put too much pressure on them as far as making them try them. Just encourage them to give it a go. You never know, you might like it, type thing. And if they don't like it, say, great, more for mom. Something like that. So I have a fun recipe for you. I was watching Rachel Ray today. Does any of you guys watch that? And she had a recipe that she was working on called stuffed meatloaf. Of course, she was putting things like cheese and flour and things like that in her meatloaf. But I thought, oh my gosh, I bet I could totally recreate that and make it a Whole 30 approved. Since some of us are doing the Whole 30, that's what I'll focus on this month. I thought I could make a Whole 30 approved stuffed meatloaf, which sounded and looked delicious on her channel. So anyway, I pulled a couple of recipes up. So I literally took bits and pieces from, I think, maybe 3 different recipes. So, kind of an experiment, but all the foods are, they definitely go together as I would put them together in a meal. So I thought, why not? It should taste very, very good. So why don't you come down here with me, and I will show you how to put this together. And then stuffed meatloaf, meaning that you put things in the middle, and then we're gonna roll up our meatloaf. So I'm hoping that'll all work out on camera for you guys today. And if not, that's okay. Things don't always work out perfectly, and that's all right too. So come down here with me. Hopefully you guys can see this okay. So what I have in my bowl, gosh. Yeah, you should be able to see that. So the recipes that I looked at called for ground beef. I put 1 pound ground beef and 1 pound of ground pork. You do whatever makes you happy. Another suggestion would be turkey or chicken. With meatloaf, I will say a little bit more fat would give it a little bit more flavor. So that's just a tip from me to you. So to make everything stick, we're not using flour. So I'm going to use eggs instead. So I'm going to use 2 eggs. If you have a sensitivity to eggs, I would encourage you to use something like coconut flour or almond flour. That would work just fine too. All right, so we're going to put those eggs right on top of that ground meat. To that, I have some fresh parsley. You can use dried parsley. That calls for 2 tablespoons of fresh, so I would use 2 teaspoons of dried. I also have some mustard powder. Put that right on there. Fresh garlic, pressed garlic. Again, this is 2 cloves, so if you don't have fresh garlic, just use 1 teaspoon of dried. I have onion powder and a little bit more garlic for garlic powder, basil, and then we have our sea salt and pepper. Actually, it's Himalayan salt. Okay, all in that bowl together, and I'm just gonna mix that up. Feel free to wear gloves on this process if it's not your thing to touch raw meat. I totally understand. No problem. Just like you would meatballs, you're just gonna mix everything together as best you can to incorporate all those flavors into your mixture. Okay, so this is the part I've never done before, so it's kind of fun to do it on camera because, you know, why not? Why not try something new? Okay, so I have my tray, and you should be able to see that in the camera view. I'm looking at it kind of at an angle. All right, and I have a piece of parchment paper that's on it. The parchment paper is going to help us roll this up. So I am just going to lay this down, and I'm going to flatten it. So you're wanting to shape this more in like a rectangle, just like you would if you were making like a homemade pizza or something like that. Oh, pizza. God, why did I have to say that? Okay. Okay, and that is about, I would call that probably about a ½ inch thick. And that is what the instructions were telling me on all of the recipes, is that you definitely want the loaf to be nice and thick. Okay, so I'm gonna go wash my hands and I'll come back and show you the rest. Okay, we are going to stuff this with some sweet potato puree and some red onions. One of the recipes also called for caramelized mushrooms, so you could also do that as well. So the sweet potato puree does have some ghee in it, and ghee, all that is clarified butter, which means that the butter has been melted and the milk solids removed, so it is Whole30 approved. The milk is the part that you want to do away with for 30 days. Okay, spreading that around. And that was 1 sweet potato boiled down, mashed, added some ghee to it, and then added a little bit of Himalayan sea salt to that. Okay, that looks about right. I covered my entire meatloaf. All right, and then to that, this is your preference. You can add as many onions as you want. This is about a ½ of a red onion, a medium-sized red onion, and I'm just gonna layer those in. So my kids are not gonna be home tonight. They both have sleepovers at other friends' house. So if my kids were here, I would not be able to add onions like this. This is just too big for them. They would not enjoy this. So I would probably have to omit the onions if my kids were here, but they're not, so I'm adding them. Okay, and this is where we start with the roll up. So we are gonna take one edge. Hopefully you guys can see that in the camera. I'm learning this new angle here. Okay, and we're just gonna start rolling this up. And I'm taking the parchment paper off as we go. Okay, cross your fingers, you guys. This is the part I was never done before. Okay, hey, there is our roll-up. Yeah, it doesn't look as pretty as Rachel Ray's, but you know, that's all right. It could be different. That's all right. So what you'd want to do is transfer that. You could keep this on the baking tray if you'd like, or you could transfer it to like a, what would that be? Like a casserole dish or something with some edges on it. You'll want to bake this at 350. I'm going to change the camera back to me since we're done making that. Bake it for 350 for about an hour and 15 minutes. You could also put this on convection and reduce your time down to about an hour. You might check it about the 50-minute mark just to see how everything's working, and test it and make sure the temperature is okay all the way through, because that's the part about meatloaf, is you want to make sure it's evenly cooked all the way through. So anyway, I hope that helps you guys. It is Whole30 approved. Now the recommendation for sauce on the top, because what's meatloaf without sauce? If you guys made the ribs from the other day that we did together, you should have some barbecue sauce. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Barbecue sauce left over, and that was the sauce that they recommended for the top of this meatloaf, stuffed meatloaf. So yum. And if not, you could always put ketchup on top of that. If you're following Whole30, you can find ketchup that is unsweetened. In Portland, there's quite a few varieties. I'm trying to think of the one that I think it's called Paleo Spirit, that has unsweetened ketchup. So anyway, and then of course there's tons of recipes on the web as far as unsweetened, making your own ketchup, or Whole30 approved ketchups too. And anyway, I'm happy to attach a recipe for that. I will put the recipe in the comments, and then I had a viewer ask if I would take photos of my food when I was done cooking, which is awesome. Yeah, you bet. So I will also take a photo of this when I cook it tonight for for me and my husband, and add it to the comments so you guys can see the finished product. So glad that worked out for you guys. I'm glad the roll-up didn't go too challenging. So that was super awesome. So anyway, you guys enjoy your day. Reach out to me if you have any questions. If you want to start your Whole30, let me know. I would be happy to offer any suggestions that are relevant to you, and we'll get you going on your 30-day transformation. So anyway, take care, you guys. See you soon. Bye.